What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob. How is everybody doing? Before I get started talking about the Mets showing strong interest in Lucas Giolito, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you're enjoying my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. All right, guys. So we know the Mets need starting pitching. We know almost for a fact at this point that they're not going to give a long-term deal to a guy like Blake Snell. Most likely not going to give a long-term deal to Jordan Montgomery. Possibly might not be in on Shota Imanaga, even though we really don't know that as of yet, since Imanaga is not going to meet teams until after the new year. So what's available? The Clevengers, the Giolitos, guys like that are a possibility because they're looking at a 1-2 year deal, possibly 3-year deal. Lucas Giolito is under 30 years old. And I think that change of scenery and a guy who pitches every single fifth start is important to a team like the New York Mets, when there was only one pitcher on their team last year that actually had a good number of starts, and that was Kodai Senga with 29. Everybody was under 20, and that is the problem that we are looking at. And the guys that you wanted to have the most starts weren't available because of injury, suspension, and when you have Tyler McGill and David Peterson making your majority of the starts, other than Kodai Senga, you're going to find yourself into a big trouble situation that the Mets found themselves in. And the other issue was the fact that there wasn't one Mets pitcher until the middle of May that went past the 6th inning. And that's another issue. And that's why Lucas Giolito is on the Mets radar. We know he wasn't good totally overall. The majority of his starts, the 21 games with the White Sox, he had a 3.86 ERA, and he's a guy that pitches every fifth day. He's a guy that throws a lot of innings, and that's important for a team like the New York Mets, who struggle to get their pitchers to pitch a lot of innings. And what does that do when they don't pitch a lot of innings? It taxes your bullpen. No matter how good your bullpen might be, if you tax your bullpen early, which the Mets did, by the time June came around, they had the most innings pitched in baseball via their bullpen. And that's when you fall into a really bad scenario where you're trying to trust your starting pitchers to go longer, but they can't. And then your bullpen's got to use more innings. And then when you really need your bullpen in the middle or later in the year, they're exhausted. You wore them out in the early parts of the year. That's why Lucas Giolito was on the Mets radar. Not only is it a short-term deal, but as a guy that can easily have a bounce-back season. And I think a change of scenery is going to help Lucas Giolito. And on top of that, we're going to look at his stats. We're going to look at the Mike Puma report about why the Mets are showing interest in Lucas Giolito. The other thing that has not been spoken about was the fact that he was in a White Sox team that was tremendously toxic. It was bad all around. The clubhouse was terrible. Everything with the White Sox was just in shambles. Yet he still pitched to a 3.86 ERA in 21 starts before he got traded to the Angels. And then when the Angels released him, went to the Guardians. So what did Mike Puma report in regards to Lucas Giolito? The Mets are showing strong interest in the right-hander, whose top selling point might be his ability to consume innings. That's a major part of this, consuming innings. 184 and a third innings last season, divided among the White Sox, Angels, and Guardians, making the fourth time since 2018 he surpassed 170 innings in a season. He finished with 204 strikeouts, which is always a good sign. He's missing bats last season, which ranked 6th in the American League. Giolito had a solid first half with the White Sox last season, but beginning in mid-July, he went through a divorce and was later traded twice, factors that may have contributed to the shaky numbers after the All-Star break. Overall, he finished with an 8-15 record, 4.88 ERA in 33 starts. The big thing here is 41 home runs. We're going to look at his stats in a little bit bigger detail. But the fact is, he is 29 years old, received a couple of Cy Young votes as recently as 2021, are positive for Giolito, who also has been linked to the Dodgers, Red Sox, and among other teams. So that is what Mike Puma reported in the article yesterday in regards to Mets showing strong interest in Lucas Giolito. So, guys, let's look at his stats right here. And I want to emphasize, as stated, this is the problem with the Mets, especially last year. They couldn't get innings from their starters, and they couldn't get quality innings from their starters. Both they couldn't get. It was either they were going to get a very small amount of good piece of pitching for a couple of innings, or they would get a disaster for a few innings and use their bullpen. This Giolito innings, eating the innings is extremely important for a Mets rotation that has struggled to get innings from their starters. So let's look at his stats really quickly when it comes to that. Now, the big thing again, he gave up 41 home runs last year, which is not normal for Lucas Giolito. He's around mid 20s, which is on average for Major League Baseball starting pitchers with that many innings. 41 is a lot of home runs, but he's never done that in his career. And what he also hasn't done in his career is pitch over 180 innings, and he did that last year. His highest game start total of 33, biggest of his career. I do like the fact that he had a 3.79 ERA with the White Sox prior to getting traded in 21 games. And this was on a team that was very, very much in shambles, very much issues in the clubhouse, very much couldn't get out of their own way. Yet going through his divorce, going through the issues that they were having in the clubhouse on that White Sox team, he still pitched to a 3.79 ERA. And that's what I want to look at. That's a little bit of adversity that he was able to overcome in that toxic environment and still pitch well. Now, he was going through a tough divorce, as is well. It's well documented. If you look through his divorce situation, it was absolutely very tough. It was a lot going on. It was dragging on throughout the season. And then he gets traded to the Angels, which he only pitched 6 games, and he gets moved to Cleveland, pitches another 6 games. So not only was he going through a divorce, not only did he get traded twice within a month, he was able to keep it good and calm while the toxic environment of the White Sox and everything going on in his life. So he was going through a divorce. He had a toxic clubhouse with the White Sox. The team was in shambles, still able to 3.79 ERA. Then he gets traded to the Angels that ended up blowing up in everybody's face on the Angels. And then he gets moved again to the Guardians, which was hanging on for dear life for a playoff spot. And that didn't last long. A lot of tough go for Lucas Giolito. I think he can bounce back, change the scenery. He wouldn't have to be the main guy. He was the main guy with the White Sox, basically. Everybody was looking at him when it came to solidifying that rotation. And then he was the big pitcher move for the Angels. He was the big pitcher move for the Guardians. So there was a lot to look at for Lucas Giolito. Again, I'm not saying this guy's going to pitch to a 2 ERA, 2.5 ERA. But what I know he's going to do is pitch every 5th day, give you 175 plus innings. And is a guy that I think that can bounce back. And if he can pitch to a 3.86 ERA or 3.79 ERA for the Mets in the middle of this rotation, it was almost better than every single Met in this rotation last year, except Kodai Senga. And again, I pivot this to saying, look at the Phillies ERAs last year for starters. Their best pitcher was Zach Willie. He had a 3.45 ERA. Everybody else had higher. Yet they were in the NL. They were one of the bigger teams making a run in the playoffs in the NLCS. So we have to look at it in that perspective as well. You need solid pitching. You need innings from your starters, because when you have at least 3 or 4 starters that comes out on the mound every 5th day, that puts less pressure on your depth pieces that are going to get thrown into the mix. It puts less pressure on your bullpen, and you save your bullpen for the main guys when you need them late in games, when you need them later in the season. That's why it's so important. And the fact that Lucas Giolito could be that guy, I think would be a nice addition for the Mets, considering the fact that if they're going to be looking for 2-3-year type of 2-year, 3-year type of deals for pitchers, Lucas Giolito and a guy like Mike Clevenger are 2 guys that you can be looking at. And I also brought up Trevor Bauer the other day. Guys that are going to be getting 1, 2, 3-year deals is exactly what the Mets are looking for. And you could do a lot worse than Lucas Giolito with contracts that you could be giving up for 2-3 years. And I think a smarter contract is this Lucas Giolito possible contract of a 2-3 year deal than rather giving Blake Snell, that nobody wants to give a 7-year, $200 million contract to, and Jordan Montgomery, who is a middle rotation guy that is going to get top 2 starting pitcher money, possibly even ace type money on the market. I don't think many people want to do that. And after the Yamamoto miss for the Mets, there's not that much out there that you could say that you're confident in giving that type of contract to Snell, Montgomery, or even a guy like Imanaga, which I think would be fine. and we don't know if the Mets are in on him, Lucas Giolito is the next best thing, and I think that's a more safer bet with a little bit more low risk, high reward situation with Lucas Giolito. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. Mets are showing strong interest in Lucas Giolito, a guy that can be put into the middle of your rotation, a guy who is under 30 years old, pitched over 180 innings, and pitched to a 3.79, 3.86 ERA with the White Sox before he got traded, and is a guy that I think can change the scenery and can really help this rotation going forward. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. Lucas Giolito on a 2-3 year deal. Once again, guys, I want to thank you for watching, and as always, Met fans, let's go